Now, we've talked about the Wi Fi protected access of WPA, what's really WPA1, because WPA was superseded by WPA2. WPA2 actually improves some of the problems with WPA, but it requires support for counter mode cipher block chaining message authentication code protocol or counter mode CBC MAC protocol or just CCMP. Now, CCMP was developed as a way of fixing some of the problems that had plagued previous attempts at doing wireless encryption or wireless security. Now, with WPA2, we end up with both personal and enterprise again. And the difference there is that with WPA2 Enterprise, we provide a radius server. We use the shared secret of the radius server so that the access point that we're using can actually communicate with the radius server and perform the authentication that is used with primarily the username and password. Now, the thing we haven't talked about between WPA and WPA2, and frankly with WEP as well, is that if you are using a weak pre-shared key or just a shared key, you can be vulnerable to password guessing or password cracking. This is really just a brute force attack where somebody keeps trying to authenticate with new password attempts over and over and over and over until eventually this actually gets to be allowed. This is where you really need some additional security that's going to be able to detect this sort of behavior, because there's really nothing in the WPA, WPA2 protocols that actually do anything along the lines of preventing this or protecting against it. They're really open to this brute force attack. So you really need something along the lines of a wireless IDS that may be capable of detecting this sort of thing, and then instituting some sort of blocking rule within the wireless infrastructure. If you're at home, frankly, you're probably really out of luck. That sort of mechanism is only going to be available within specialized security devices that would be capable of doing that. Of course, the plus side is if you're at home, odds are you're probably not going to be having somebody trying to do really the level of brute force that would be required to even guess a basic password, unless you've done something really silly like using password 123, which would be probably one of the very first guesses that somebody made. So make sure that you are using a really long pre-shared key. If you are using WPA2 personal, we have the ability to use really long shared keys, so make sure that you're using those long shared keys, which is going to protect you against the brute force style attacks that you might be vulnerable to. The good news is that that's really one of the only ways that somebody is going to be able to get at you if you are using WPA2, because they did implement a lot of new mechanisms that would actually do a better job of protecting the key and the communication stream, certainly in comparison to the older WEP and WPA protocols.